Good morning, boys and girls. We had a power outage at school that was a little weird, but the power is back on again, and I'm ready to record my Bible story for you today. So it's Monday morning, and our story, like it says in your work packages, is called Healing the Demoniacs. We're going to talk about that right away. So let's talk a little bit about the story that we talked about last week. It's not very clear, but you'll remember that Jesus and his disciples were crossing the Sea of Galilee when a storm hit them. Jesus calmed the storm. He said, "Peace, be still." And the wind and the waves stopped immediately. I have the computer now on Ben and Peyton's desk. Hopefully you can all see me and hear me very well. I made sure to turn off the furnace because last time it started up right in the middle, which made it harder to hear. All right, so today's story, Healing the Demoniacs, from Matthew 8, verses 28 to 34. So Jesus was in the Sea of Galilee. He had calmed the storm. They didn't turn around and go back to Capernaum again. They continued sailing, and they came to the other side of the Sea of Galilee. They came to an area that was called the land of the Gergesenes, like you see I wrote right above the map over there. There were people there who had never really met Jesus before. Now, as Jesus and his disciples stepped off the boat, two men came to meet the Lord Jesus and his disciples. Now, these were not normal-looking men. These men, they were living in tombs, which means they were living in caves where people buried dead people. So they were living in caves in the mountains where there were people buried. These men had been living there a long time already. No, these men were not your usual men. The devils were living inside of them. There were many devils, many evil spirits living inside of these men. They made these men different than how they were before. These men, most likely, before they had this problem, before the devils came to live in them, and these devils controlled everything they did, made the men, you'd almost say, a little bit crazy, right? There was devils living in them. The men, they probably looked very awful. They probably had long beards, messy hair, long hair that was never combed. Their clothing was probably all tattered and ripped. They probably smelled very bad. They looked dirty. These men were just terrible to see, terrible to hear, right? Because Satan, the devil, had such a control of them. Now these two men, they saw the Lord Jesus arriving in his boat. They came out of the tombs, they came out of the caves, and they came to meet the Lord Jesus. Now these men were also very wild. The people of the towns and cities around these caves were afraid of these men. They didn't even dare to come close to them. They were scary looking, but they were also wild in their actions. And we said that they were this way, right? Because the devil had control of them. Now, the devil was also able to speak to the Lord Jesus through these men. So when these men approached the Lord Jesus, when Lord Jesus came off the boat, they said, "Why are you coming to us? Have you come here to torment us? Have you come here to make it more difficult to us?" Now you'll know that this was not the men themselves who were thinking and speaking this. This was the devils using these men, using their mouths to say these things to the Lord Jesus. Now, a little bit away from where this conversation was happening, there was a herd of pigs. They were busy eating and just walking around the ground and doing what they do. The devil said to the Lord Jesus, because the devils, they knew who the Lord Jesus was. They knew that God had power over them. They knew the Lord Jesus, this person who came off the boat, was stronger than they were. So they said to the Lord Jesus, "If you are going to take us out of these men, then let us go into these pigs that you see who are walking around and eating here. Right? The devils knew the Lord Jesus had power over them. They knew the Lord Jesus was stronger than they were. And they already had a feeling. They knew that the Lord Jesus was going to do something, right? So then the Lord Jesus, he just said one word. Lord Jesus, he said, go. What did the devils do? They left these men. In a sense, they came out of these men. You couldn't see it. But they went into these pigs, the Bible said. As the devils went into these pigs, then they were in control of the pigs, these devils, right? What happened to this whole group of pigs that was busy eating and rolling around? The Bible says they ran violently. They ran wildly down a cliff, right into the Sea of Galilee. And they drowned. So these devils, they went into the pigs, these pigs who just a minute ago had just been eating calmly, suddenly they became crazy. The devils entered them, right? And they ran off the edge of the cliff into the sea. Now the owners of these pigs, they belonged to somebody, right? They belonged to people. So these people who owned these pigs, they saw all of this happening. They couldn't believe it. They had never seen something like this before. What was happening? Well, they said to each other, we need to go into the city. We're going to tell our friends and our family what we saw and what we heard. So these men, they ran into the city. They got all their friends and family. They said, everybody listen to us. Can you believe what we just saw and heard? The people in the city, they say to each other, well, we want to see this person who was able to do this. Right? Because everybody in the city, they knew about those men who lived in the tombs. They knew about these wild men, these scary men, right, who had the devils in them. So all the people from the city, they came where the Lord Jesus was, still on the coast, right, where he had stepped off of his boat by the Sea of Galilee. When they saw the Lord Jesus, these people, they were afraid. They're like, this man has control over the devils. What are we going to do? They were so afraid, they asked the Lord Jesus to leave them. They said, the Bible says they besought him. They asked him. They begged him, please leave us. They were that afraid. So, to recap, right? In our story, the Lord Jesus had crossed the Sea of Galilee. He landed. 2 men came out of tombs to meet the Lord Jesus. Now the devils were in these men, and they spoke to the Lord Jesus, right? They said, what are you going to do to us? They knew that it was the Lord Jesus who had power, who could do with them whatever he wanted. And he did, right? The Lord Jesus sent the devils into the pigs, who very wildly ran down the cliff and drowned. So for your assignment for today, you're going to have to include several words again in there, the words that are written on the paper that went home to you. Don't skip lines. I'm reading again all of the information that your moms are sending in to me, and you're doing fantastic work. Keep it up. Remember your capitals and your periods. Don't forget to caption your drawings, right? That means after you've drawn your picture, that right under the picture there are 2 little lines in a darker box. Write down on those lines what your picture is about. I'll do my best to continue posting these videos. And tomorrow's I'll try to have up early in the morning so that when you get up in the morning, you can readily begin your Bible. Well, I hope you all have a wonderful week. Hope you can get lots of work done again. I'll continue doing work on my end, marking your things as your moms send them in to me. And then I hope to see you again tomorrow. Goodbye, boys and girls.